Yeah, I wish that she could have a break
Yeah.
instead of having to finish up.
Well, she does. In 2 weeks, she gets a break.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. That would be a little bit overwhelming, I think, but but at least she can do it from home, I guess.
Oh, that would be hard. I can't imagine having a baby and teaching school. I had a baby while I was in school, and that wasn't fun.
And
So, okay. Let's start with a prayer. Sorry, I should have done that before I hit record. But does anybody want to volunteer?
I'll say it.
Okay, thank you.
Our Father in heaven, thankful for this day, thankful for thy many blessings, for the gospel, for education, for the thing we're learning, this human resources class. Ask and pray that thy blessings be upon us this evening as we talk, that we can have thy spirit be with us and be with Andrew in his move to Michigan, and that Sandy could get here soon, and especially with Sister Jess with her new little boy. Ask and pray that blessings be upon them. And we ask and pray for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Let me pull up our fancy discussion we get to have.
Ma'am.
You guys like this case?
Fire them all.
It's interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
it is.
Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about employment at will and some of the exceptions. So it talks about 4 different exceptions. So the first one is breach of implied contract. Does anybody want to kind of expound what that is for everybody else? Or I can just pick you guys at random. I guess I get to do that.
Yes.
Okay, I know. I
Oh, all right, David, you got it.
Oh, I wasn't volunteering. I just remember reading it. I got to remind myself what it is.
The next one is breach of implied covenant of good faith, if anybody wants to plan ahead.
Oh, the breach of the implied contract. Okay, so that one was basically where you don't really have an actual contract, but you're hired for you're hired and everything's going good, and the breach is you can't be fired because you made a mistake when or that you're doing a bad job when you're getting reviews saying that everything's good and you're accomplishing your goals and your tasks adequately. So a breach of an implied that implication that you're doing a good job means that you are fulfilling your contract. You can't be fired for that. Be fired for that.
Not supposed to.
Good. Thank you. All right, Cami or Ken, does either of you want to take breach of implied covenant of good faith?
Well, I'm looking at the reading right now. Is that cheating?
Nope. That just means you're up.
No, that's what I just did.
Okay, Cami, do you want to be ready to talk about violation of public policy? Okay. All right, Ken, you're up.
It's about 20% of the states have the implied covenant of good faith. They said it's widely recognized in general contract law, but they usually decline to apply it in employment agreements. It's too broad. I mean, what is the employee promising to do? What is the employer promising to do? What is good faith and fair dealing? The promises between the employer and employee is just too broad of a I hate to say it, I sound like Andrew. It's too broad of a topic to really. I don't know. I can't think of the right word. It says, for example, termination to avoid paying a commission to a salesperson or for taking sick leave. You know, that would be against the law.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a big bonus coming up, there's a friend of mine. He works for another company. He got fired before he was supposed to be getting his big bonus. So they can't do that or shouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's exactly what it talks about, is like trying to get rid of an employee when it's really their turn to follow through with what they've agreed to. So cool. All right, Cami, you ready with
So,
violation of public
yeah.
policy? Except you have to be unmuted.
Good point. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that is good. I would have just kept talking. So, so violation of public policy. So it's using to fight dismissal. It's using public policies to fight that. Judicial opinions, professional codes of conduct. So things like the protecting whistleblowers from that, and protecting people who are, refusing to do something wrong, like refusing to give false testimony or something. Reporting illegal or harmful activity, that they can't be fired because of that.
Gingerbread man.
Okay, I am gonna assume that was perfect because my 3-year-old came in here crying because.
Oh.
Yes, it was perfect.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll do the last one, which was discrimination statutes, which is basically just you can't fire somebody because of something like we talked about with discrimination. So like race, origin, gender, religion, disabilities. So that one was pretty straightforward.
Isn't there another one?
The Age Discrimination Act.
Oh, no, that's just the notice requirements where you have to give notice if, depending on the size of the company, if you're shutting down a
We did talk about that in the reading, but it didn't tell us to talk about that in the instruction thing.
Okay.
But wait a minute.
That has to do with the WARN Act. I forgot what WARN's for, but if they're going to shut down a facility, the workers adjustment and retraining notification.
Bruce, where are you?
He's in his room screaming.
We have kind of the interesting policy at work. If there's going to be, it's really works just for salaried people right now, but give them, I think it's 2 weeks as you're laid off, but you keep coming in for 2 weeks, hand over what you've been doing with jobs, and we'll help you with locating another job. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Okay, so the next part, we get to talk about the case and what should the manager do? This is what we've been waiting for.
Okay, first off, you seem a little too happy about this.
I'll be honest, I had to go to the hospital today because I'm having contractions and I'm only 24 weeks along. So they put me on a muscle relaxer. So I'm like really feeling good, guys.
An interesting meeting, huh?
Thank you.
My husband's like, are you sure you can do this? I'm like, oh yeah, we're good. So, I'm sorry. I'll try to smile less.
You should get bonus points for this, for sure.
It's good. It's been really fun.
Well, I hope everything's okay.
It's good. They're just gonna watch me for the next little bit, and it's gonna be good. So.
Oh, good. Well, finishing school.
What do you think about the?
Thanks.
No. What do you think about the 27-year-old boss? How her attitude is? I kind of like it. She's blunt and tells things how they are. And I appreciate that. I don't like a boss that just kind of nebulous on some of his answers.
That is actually one of our questions: is how does she handle herself?
Oh, okay. We'll get
So that was perfect. Perfect segue. So I do think it's really interesting that she's so direct and honest.
Yeah.
There's another question that goes with that I've lost now, but that's okay. So let's talk about Terry and Phil really quick, and then we'll come back to the manager. But so how do each of them affect the company as a whole, like financially? So like Terry specifically doesn't really do very much. And then the company as a whole only makes about $300,000 a year, which paying
Yeah, that's not much
salary,
of a company.
yeah, it's pretty small. So
Was that a lot of income, but all their bills and everything, you know, they're only being able to put 300,000 in the bank every year or whatever it is. That's not too good. They need to control some of their costs. That's another story.
yeah. So that's, I think, is what it's trying to talk about, is how can these two employees, are they affecting how much that this company's bringing in?
Well, they're affecting a lot, because if they're not putting any value into the product, which is their product is what makes them the money, then you want to be on there? I'm sorry. They if they're not contributing, they're not helping to make any money, but they're still getting their salary paid. So if you take them away, the product still gets made the exact same way. So let's say one of them is they're each making $50,000. They go away, the product is still the exact same without them. Now that's an extra 100,000 that the company puts into the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Terry guy, he bothers me. You know, friends with the boss, never went through the interview process correctly or the way that she would like it. You know, it's kind of forced on her team. There's a guy in my department, but he's more over on the engineering side, shop support. He's the golf player. He has connections to all the cool golf courses, and he takes the bosses playing golf a lot. I mean, he leaves half a day just to go play golf with the boss, and he doesn't do any real work. And it's bad. It's been bad for the morale of, you know, our department, the other departments, because they see what's going on. And I'd love to get rid of the guy, but you can't.
Yeah,
He's friends.
I think it's super sticky. Like, I mean, because honestly, a lot of it is, even though Terry's being a bad employee, I mean, just the way he was hired was not
Yeah.
his choice necessarily, and
Yeah.
it was just handled poorly. The guys in the big offices wanted him, even though it was obvious from the very beginning that it wasn't a good choice.
Yeah.
That makes me think, because I put my name down, or I asked my name to be down on the dismissing employees for the doohickeys. That would be one of the solutions, is following the prescribed hiring process to make sure you don't have to get to the dismissing employee process.
Yeah.
I gotta make a note of that now.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys think that this is something the manager should take into account? He's deciding what to do with these guys. Do you feel like she has an obligation to think about the bottom line?
Of course she does.
I do. Yeah.
I mean, as a supervisor, you're supposed to be responsible for your employees as well as to the company itself. You got to look at both sides.
Yeah. That it's nothing personal. It's just business. Well, yeah, personalities come into it, and, you know, the personal feelings, but it is just business. To be responsible for that.
Okay. So how about with each of these guys, what are some of these, like, employment at will, legal obligations they have? Do you guys feel like any of the things we talked about at the beginning apply to these guys?
Well, yes, they do, because in the past, before she does her performance review, they've always been told that they're doing a good job. They got their 3, that was the minimum. So you can't come in right away and fire them, because they've been told they have that, what is it? The breach of implied contract, if they fired them, because they've been told that they're doing enough so far. So that's one of the things that they have to be careful of, and that's why she would have to do that give them the 2.5 to let them know in advance, you're not doing a good job. We have to make some changes if you're going to stay here. So that's how she gets away or gets around the implied contract. So the implied contract goes away as soon as she tells them that they're not doing the job the right way.
The company I work for, they actually have a program like this. It's all on a bell curve. You got, most people, they're average. You got one's the low performer. You got one's the superstar. And we had one guy, he was consistently kind of the low performer. And they finally put him on one of those PIP programs. But he turned around. He actually still working there and has turned into a good, an okay employee. It's interesting because this is a lot like what we do at work.
So I know I talked about with Bill, he's been sick. So that would kind of work with like disability discrimination. It talks about how Terry's older, and so there would be an age discrimination thing. So it does make it a little difficult.
Hey, wait, you said he was a little older?
I don't remember what it said. It just talked about that he was older.
I thought it said something that they were in their 40s, and that's very offensive to me now.
That's not too bad.
40s.
You're trying to catch me saying something I'm not trying to say here.
Yeah, it's all right. You're happy no matter what right now.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good day. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, go ahead. Sorry.
I just turned 55, so I'm one of the older guys at work now.
Okay.
Bill was over 40, so we don't know exactly how old he is.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, he could have been like 80. So there.
All right. I guess technically I'm not over 40.
Okay. So, how about, are there any ethical obligations to either of these guys?
Where's Mama?
Ethical obligations, specifically for Phil because he was sick. It's hard to have him come back and basically be a different person. 25 pounds lighter. He looks different. He's back, but he's not fully healthy. So how do you go in and say, hey, welcome back. We're glad that you're still alive. You don't work here anymore. There's definitely an ethical dilemma there.
I thought it was good that he would come to work every now and then. When he's feeling better, at least he has the, he's an employee still. He would come to work. So that's a plus on my side. He could be riding the disability or the short-term disability, for as much as he can. So, I'm glad to see he's coming to work.
That's true. That makes a big difference if you can take something like that and still be willing to make an effort. Okay, what about, Cammie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Terry and ethically, and he probably is completely aware of why he's there and what kind of an employee he is. But he also, I think, is under the impression, because he's buddy with the upper guys, that he has a job, that he's safe. I think he probably kind of has that opinion. So I do think that ethically he needs to be told, like, give him the bad review and give him a chance to instead of just firing him immediately, so that he's aware that his job is in jeopardy.
Perfect. Okay, we kind of already talked about this, but what are the ethical obligations to the company? Like we talked about financially.
so I think that it makes it really like it's pretty clear that ethically towards the company, it's not good for her to keep these guys on. At least she should, move towards, hey, if you don't change, right, some drastically, you're not going to have a job. Because it's affecting the bottom line, and they've got, these two guys that accomplish little, if anything, and it's costing the company a lot of money. But then also, you've got these upper manager guys that that have really caused, at least one of these problems, so the Terry problem. So.
Well, there's more to it, I think, than just the financial and the upper management. You got to remember that they're just, Terry and Phil, they're both members of a department where everyone else is doing their fair share and getting paid the same as Terry and Phil are. So it brings the morale down, and it causes people to become disgruntled when they see somebody that's not pulling their fair share. So that's a whole nother thing you got to look at.
Yeah.
Not to discredit what you said at all, Kim, but.
No. No, yeah, no, I agree. It definitely has that effect too. So.
I mean, we have a guy at work that I feel doesn't do much of anything, and I'm fairly disgruntled about it at times. And it's really, really annoying when he's working on the same project that should take about a day, and 3 weeks later, he's about halfway done with it. And you're picking up the slack while he's working on his one day project for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would have a hard time getting rid of Phil. Saying how the company rallied around him. They went and made his was it a vegetable garden? Worked in a garden.
Because that's
parties for him when he came back and everything. They were actually giving up their vacation time, sick time. So it'd be hard to fire him just kind of out of the blue. Also, after you've been showing him all this support, he thinks he's part of the team, and good things will be coming to him. He's sorry he got sick, but yeah, I would have that made me feel real bad to get rid of the guy after he's been sick like that, ethically speaking.
Yeah, I agree. And that actually leads right to the next question. Like, ethically, does that work with the other employees?
Well, that's the thing. The other employees know exactly what was done for him, and what the company put into his convalescence and his recovery, and they know about the visits and the vacation time they gave up. So it's the same thing. The other employees are going to see, oh, look, he came back and they got rid of him right away. If I get sick, are they going to do the same thing to me? Mm-hmm. It's going to cause that worry for everybody that every time they get a sniffle or they get diagnosed with something else.
That's true. So what about to herself as the manager? Is that an ethical choice to just let him slide? Kind of seems like it goes against everything she stands for.
It does.
Definitely not just letting them slide. I mean, there needs to be action taken.
Okay, one of my problems with this whole scenario or case is right when it's talking about Terry, when it's talking about the performance review and the 30-40-30 and how they have something's ringing in my ears here.
All right, I sent the invite again because Sandy keeps saying she's not getting it, but I keep sending it to her.
Oh.
It might be ringing for everyone. Sorry.
Okay, well, hopefully she gets it. But my whole problem with this is when she brings up the PIP, It says the PIP, this is really the setting them up to be fired. It means that you micromanage someone and eventually they slip up and then you can just fire them because they're on their PIP and they made a mistake, which is not the right attitude or not the way it's supposed to be. The PIP, whatever it stands for, the Performance Improvement Plan, the way she describes it is
Sorry.
is that there's no improvement at all. It's just it doesn't do what the name says it's supposed to do.
I've sent. Hang on, you're not part of the group. I sent you the link. Is it not working?
Let me go check because I kept getting these. You were invited to this call, so I was trying to jump on those.
Okay, hang on.
There it is.
Sorry. Let me mute this.
So anyway, that's my big problem is that they're not trying to help anybody when they put them on this plan. If you have somebody that wants to work that just doesn't have the education, put them on the plan so that they can receive the education, so they can gain the skills, so they can help and be a productive member of the team at that point.
Yay!
That's the first time this whole semester I finished saying something and someone cheered. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's funny.
Sorry for the craziness. Anyway.
No, you're good. And I thought I would text you, and then I left my phone at the church.
Oh.
And so I'm sitting here going, okay, we could do our BYU email. Okay, I'll try that. So sorry. Anyway.
That's okay. We were just kind of talking about the ethics of it all, of this issue in this case. But the next topic is actually, we're going to go over their HR department and what things we thought they did well and what things we thought they should work on. Ken, do you want to start us off with that? And unmute.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing really well. It's that easy for the upper managers to circumvent the hiring process. I think the reading says down here that Terry was hired before she became a manager. And, she's the one that's going to be managing that department. She should have some kind of control over what happens and not take flack from, the upper management. They're trying to influence her decision. I don't think that's the right thing to do. She's the one who's working with everybody day to day. She knows how people work. She has a little disadvantage. She's 27. She's a real go-getter and all that. I'm not sure how much older the managers are, but they might be thinking, oh, you're just not with the rest of the program or something. But I don't think their HR program's working very well. It's too easy to get around.
Perfect. Cami, do you think the employees have a clear idea what the company expects from them from the HR department?
What it expects from the HR department? One more time.
Sorry, do you think the employees have a clear idea of what the HR department expects from them?
No, especially, one of the things that's just popping into my head is them, having performance reviews, but getting scores that don't really represent actual performance. So I think that they don't, that there's no benefit in doing them if they're not accurate, at least, more accurate. If you're just giving a horrible employee just a passing thing, it doesn't mean a whole lot. So, and I know that was his manager, but that all goes back to kind of how the HR has set up the performance reviews kind of thing. So.
Perfect. All right, David, do you want to tell us about what PIPs are for and if the company uses them effectively?
Oh, this is what I was just talking about.
Yeah,
Is PIPs
yeah,
are
I saved it for you.
oh well. So they're performance improvement plans, and they're reserved for employees that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the company does not use them the way they're supposed to be at all. It looks like what they do is if somebody's underperforming, not accomplishing what they need to, they give them a score of 2.5, which is below average, and then they put them on this plan. And all the plan means is that they're watched closely, and the first mistake that they make, they get fired. So it takes that middle word, the improvement part of it, and gets rid of it completely. And they don't try and actually make a plan to get the employee to do anything better than what they had been in the past. So and like I said earlier, this is the part of the whole thing that really bothers me is you're supposed to try and get your employees to do better rather than just get rid of them.
Yeah, it's the death knell. I mean, you hear people were getting put on that PIP plan. We don't do that anymore, but before too long, they're going to mess up. They're going to, one of those little clauses that they have to follow, they're going to mess up and they're gone.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for documenting employees' performance and making sure that they're accountable for their actions, but give them the chance to do better. At least don't just expect them to make a mistake and get rid of them.
Perfect. Okay, Sandy, you ready? Do you think that this manager can make a good decision with both of these guys based on like the biases she's getting from other workers and other management? And you have to unmute.
That's helpful. Thank you. I think it would be really, really hard to, because especially, I mean, if you're working with these people hands-on and you're experiencing a lot of this, then that's one thing. But if you're relying on feedback from other people to kind of add to your experience, then I think the pot gets a little muddled. And it doesn't sound like, you've got decent support, so your hands feel tied, and it just feels like a humongous mess. Like this is a doohickeys mess. With how things are going. So I think she could, well, whoever the manager can. Yes, there you are. See, there you are. I think she can come to a pretty good decision, but then being able to execute it is even harder. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense? Am I just babbling?
No, that's perfect. You guys are like on top of it tonight. You're amazing. Okay, you ready? We're gonna take a vote.
He's got his face against the screen saying hi to you.
Oh, hi.
See, here she is.
So cute.
Yeah. Yep. There's your smiles.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Sorry for the derail there.
No, I love it. Okay. So we each have to take turns and say what decision we would make with each of these guys. So, any volunteers to start?
Sure, I'll start. And I don't know if we have choices for our decisions, but I would, if we're supposed to decide between certain options, but with Terry, I don't see improvement happening. I think she's already tried to work with him. I do think she might need to give him the 2.5 and then wait a reasonable amount of time before he can actually be fired. But I think he's going to need to go. and Phil, I think she should also, give him the grade he deserves. But he has more redeeming qualities than Terry as far as his work. And so I think that she should see if if Phil can make some improvements once he realizes, how unsatisfactory his work is, kind of thing.
Awesome. All right, next.
Oh, I'll go next. For Terry, absolutely give him the 2.5, but obviously I would sit down with him, do a real PIP, and try and tell him what the changes he could make to be productive, give him a plan, let him help with the plan so he understands what is expected of him a little bit more, and then let him basically hang himself if he wants to, but hope for the best. With Phil, I was looking, since his performance review wasn't coming up right away, but it also said that she had hope, that he was trying. So it's tough. What I would probably actually put him at a 30, just because he'd been gone for so long, or a 3.0, because he'd been gone so long, and hold on to him, give him another chance, but still sit down with him and talk to him and let him know what the expectations are for the next review period. And then if it didn't improve, then go to 2.5 on the next review period after that.
Perfect.
I'll go next. Yeah, with Terry, I was just reading a little bit more about him. She didn't even think he belonged in the position or even in the company. He's 15 years older than probably most of the rest of the group. He likes to target shoot, kept a gun in his car. Well, I do too, so that's okay. Not necessarily politically correct, short, balding, terrible come over. He really just doesn't fit in the department or the vision that she's trying to make for the department. They're a bunch of go-getters. They know how to do the codes and everything. He just really doesn't belong in that department. Maybe they could find him another spot. Phil, I'd have a hard time firing. I'd probably give him a 2.5 also, because he's not performing like he's supposed to, but at least he has some kind of he has some promise. Plus he's been sick. That's what I would have a hard time firing. Terry, he just doesn't fit in. Phil, he fits in. Everybody likes him. Everybody's, they like him enough to help him out. I'd keep him on, but try to find something in the department or another department that he could do better at.
I thought it was really interesting that they mentioned his hair in the.
Yeah, gives me a good mental picture of what he is. Okay.
This is the good hair department. We can't have him in here.
All right, Sandy.
Hold on, I gotta go get a hat just in case.
It's really, I think this is a really tough one, because I have a friend who is a Phil, except she performs really well. She's a banker, and she never really stays anywhere very long. She kind of comes in like a tornado, and she's very demanding. I don't know, she's just a very strong personality. And but she's an excellent seller. I mean, she could sell manure to a crap farm, to be honest. I mean, she's really good. But she very much has you guys should be grateful I'm here for you, because I rock and I know you need me. So I'm going to do what I want, take vacation when I want, and feel absolutely no loyalty to you. And she actually recently did this at the bank that she worked at. And she did end up getting really sick, and they couldn't figure it out. And first they thought she had bone cancer, and then they thought she had Crohn's disease, and then she had extra spinal fluid in her brain, and all of these things. I mean, it was legit. She was legitly sick, but she would also do the I'm not feeling, I just want to stay home and quilt today, so I'm sick sort of stuff. And then all this while she's sick, she's applying for other banking jobs. And as soon as she got hired at a different bank, then she went back to work for a couple of weeks, and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm out. And so I kind of feel like she's a fill, and that's hard because it's like, wait a second, we're trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and help guide you through this process and be supportive and understanding and not kick you to the curb, not because you're sick, but because you suck at your job. And we really want someone good in this position, but we're trying to do the right thing for like I don't want to say ethically the right thing, because I'm not sure it's unethical to fire them, but it just doesn't feel very nice. And then, to have them not step up their game and at least try to do a better job. Honey, just a second. So that's a hard one. And I've wrongfully fired somebody before. And so I have heartburn about saying whether or not I would fire them or not, because I think I regret what I did so badly that I wouldn't want to do it again. So I'd probably say, transfer them to the basement department.
That's awesome. Okay, so you guys all pretty much kind of picked alternatives to just firing, which is perfect. That's kind of what it leads into, is would an alternative be better? And apparently you guys all think so. So next it wants to know what message would it send to the other employees by not firing them? And would that change your decision?
Well, it depends on how you didn't fire them. If you don't fire them and expect them to do the exact same job and nothing changes, then that's going to send a bad message to everybody else. But if you keep them on and give them new responsibilities and they fulfill those responsibilities, then it just shows that you're willing to work with your employees.
I agree. And by the way, I just realized that my rant there didn't answer your question at all, and I apologize for that. But I agree that some people just aren't great at certain places, and you just gotta let them try different things, and maybe you can find their niche. They might really suck at sales, but they're really great at data entry. Who knows?
Perfect. Okay, so the next thing is for us to read part 2. Has anybody read part 2 yet? Okay, it's not very long. It's really short. But it just kind of says how it all ends up happening. So I don't know if we want to kind of take a moment of silence and you guys can read through it, or if you want me to summarize it.
Where is part 2?
It's called 2 Tough Calls, and then it has a B next to it. Just down lower on our.
Oh, okay, I see it. Yeah. Dismissing employees, part 2. Okay.
Yeah, it's only a page it's 2 pages.
I'm good with either.
Okay, we have time if you guys want to read it. I feel like reading it is going to be better than me trying to explain what it says.
I'm sure we need to read it anyway to finish our assignment. So.
But I'd be very interested to hear how you summarize it.
Oh, I don't think anyone wants to hear me talk for very long tonight.
It's been entertaining so far.
Who knows what'll come out?
I see that she wants to help Terry find another job with the company. If you can't find one, then why don't you go out with a party, a big bang, with your head high, so that you were never on a PIP. And she gave him, let's see, 3 months to try to find something. So I guess he did quit. He wrote a letter to everyone saying that he was moving on to spend more time on scuba diving, which was his real passion. Okay, so he wound up leaving.
Yeah, she
Well,
did give him the lower score like she wanted to, but she handled it. She talked to him more as a person rather
Yeah.
than a failure.
I think the guy knew that he wasn't really a superstar on the team anyway. I think that's what that other reading said, that he knew he was kind of one of the low performers and wasn't doing the code stuff. I don't know exactly what all that means, like the other guys were. Let's see. So you read about Phil. So they hired another person. Gave him a 3.0. You know, he met the minimum requirements. He moved to another team. Wow. And then he died. Goodness gracious.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Continued to be friends, and I heard he kept getting threes. About a year later, he was diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer, and then he had to leave the company, and he died not too long after that. Dang.
Don't be a Phil.
Oh. Yeah. Actually, I gave a blessing to a lady at church here about a month ago. She had inoperable brain cancer, and I told her it was time to go home. You know, she died 2 days later.
Mm.
That was rough.
Sad. Our Relief Society president yelled at us a couple weeks ago and told us we had to quit dying because I guess we've had a lot of funerals this year.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she
The
just
old-
stood up in front of the whole room and screamed, "Will you all quit dying?"
The oldest person in my ward is 54.
Wow.
Dang, I'm 55.
There's a lady that I'm friends with. She just turned 95. She's been praying to die. She's like, my husband's been dead for 20 years. I bet he's with his high school girlfriend, and that's why he won't come for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
our ward is, we'll have 100 kids in the youth program when my daughter joins in 3 years.
In youth?
Uh-huh.
Holy
Goodness
cow.
gracious.
Yeah, it's a very young ward with a lot of kids.
Yeah. I've done 39 funerals in my almost 6 years as bishop, so that's been hard too.
Holy cow.
We have an old ward. Okay.
Anyway,
are we ready?
back on topic.
Sorry. All right. Do we all feel like we understood what she did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you guys think she did well?
I think she was
she
honest.
talked to them.
Yeah. She's blunt and honest, and I appreciate that in people.
She treated them respectfully.
Mm-hmm. I like that she explained what she was doing to each of them and gave them their options and told them what she thought was best, but really let them make their own decisions.
It also seemed from the reading, and maybe they just didn't type this out well or not, but she didn't approach it in an emotional attacking manner. You know, she seemed to, or not she, he, whoever seemed to be calmer. You know, I know that I get jazzed up, you know, because I hate confrontation. And so, and I tend to be very emotionally charged. And so I thought that was, as I was reading through it, I thought, wow, that's a really well thought out, you know, detached way to present this. And allow them to not feel attacked. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's perfect. Do we feel like she did anything that was not very effective?
I don't know. They got rid of them both in the end anyway. So
Yeah.
One's a little more morbid than the other.
Well, yeah, I think what she did that wasn't very effective is she didn't really set a timeline for Terry. She said maybe 3 months, but there was no hard and fast, basically schedule of what he needed to do. So if based on that, you'll know how much time you need is a recipe for he could take as long as he wants, and it could take a year or two, and he's still affecting everything. So she didn't set herself up very well on that front.
Perfect. Anything else? This is our last thing to talk about, so. Okay, cool. Well, then let's wrap it up. What can we learn from this case about making decisions about termination?
Got to weigh a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. Look at extenuating circumstances. I mean, there's a lot of, the Warren Act stuff, the age discrimination, whatever other kind of discrimination, how it's going to affect the other employees. It's interesting in that reading, they talk about the survivors guild. We've had quite a few layoffs. We had over 1,000 people working at our company a couple years ago. Now we got just a little over 400. Funny thing is, I don't miss any of them. There wasn't anybody that I really worked with, or I don't really know what they did. But yeah, you just have to there's a lot of stuff to weigh before you make a decision like that.
Perfect. Anybody else?
One of the things in some of our other reading besides the case, talking about, making sure employees have information when there's going to be layoffs or termination. And I think she did a good job of that, to, keeping things secretive, and that I think just causes a lot of problems. So I think being open is important.
Yeah, you start hearing all the rumors and everything, and then you having to do rumor control. And hey, did you hear? There's a lot of that going on.
That's very
We're all
true.
grown adults. Yeah, the company, we're all grown adults. Tell us like it is. We don't need all this secrecy.
Perfect. Okay. Well, if there isn't anything else anybody wants to say, I'll stop it.
Are we supposed to say how you did a good job?
No, but you can if you want to.
Oh. Yeah, you should stop it before I say what I'm.
Oh.
Never.